You're now entering the LuxCore Studios. And you've secured a seat for the Protecting Your Radius podcast. Here, we build connections from your contracting profession to some of the top bleeding edge products and services. Don't get deterred. Let's not delay. Here is your host, Nathan Downs.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Protecting Your Radius podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Downs, and I am at the Band of Brothers retreat in Huntsville, Texas this week. And I have my good friend Kyle Sullivan with me. Kyle, what's up, bro?
What's up, man?
So Kyle and I have been friends for a handful of years. And Kyle is a coach, helps different businesses, people kind of get their stuff straight. And he has a lot of really cool insight and experience in that space. So I thought it would be beneficial, as many of us in the marketplace right now are looking to expand our teams, to improve our teams and stuff. So I wanted to talk to Kyle, since we have some time together, on what that actually looks like, his recommendations and everything. So, man, tell everybody a little bit about, before you get into that, one of the big things I was thinking, man, before we sat down was you're one of the first people that I knew personally that had started podcasting.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, which is cool because, a lot of the stuff, even our producer, Rob, was your producer.
Yeah. He's still doing my podcast now.
Yeah. That's awesome. So with that being said, tell everybody about Unleash the Champ, your business, what you guys do. And then I got some cool questions for you. So
yeah, Unleash the Champ started July of this year, will be 3 years.
Nice.
So started a business July of 2020, the peak of the pandemic.
Yep.
So great time to start that. Before that, I was a pastor for 12 years, 10 years full time, all working with teams. And so when I started my business, that's what I wanted to do, is to lead leaders to lead their teams better. Mm-hmm. And that's really the basis of what I do with working with business owners. It's really the mental management of folks, directors, those not in charge, to lead like they are.
Nice. So there's a book I read a million years ago, which was the 360 Degree Leader by John Maxwell.
John Maxwell,
right?
Absolutely.
So that kind of philosophy, I think, is probably foreign to a lot of people, especially like contractors and construction people that listen to our podcast and stuff. So kind of break that down for what you've seen, in the scope. You're working with a lot of real estate people, in that market.
Service.
Service.
Commission-based folks. Yep. Nathan, it's getting a person to buy into the culture because, Maxwell talks about it. A lot of people have said people won't leave a leader, but they'll leave an organization.
Right.
And so it's getting to that place where it's going, okay, no matter your business, if your culture's not right, whether you got a team of 5 or 50 or 500, the culture has to be set, because people will leave leaders that don't empower, don't let them have a seat at the table. And a lot of the work that I do now is getting older generations, so like your Gen X, to see the value of millennials and the older Gen Z that's coming into the workforce, and seeing their value in their company and not just as someone that's going to kind of do the grunt work.
Yeah. So how is business leaders, how do we sell that vision to people that we're looking to bring on our team? And we're saying that you're talking sub 35-year-olds, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So what have you seen be successful right now in the marketplace for recruiting and hiring?
Giving people a seat at the table immediately.
Okay.
So where the shift is, I think about my dad growing up. It was, my dad had to work his way up.
Right.
So my dad worked in oil fields. He worked in, construction yards. He did pipe and all like that. And you worked your way up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now the hiring process needs to change to where hiring directors, owners of companies need to identify what they want. And from day one, giving people that are younger, 35 and younger, a seat at the table, because really a new person in your organization, when they're most valuable to you is in their first 90 days.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because that's when they have the most new insight.
Makes sense.
Because after your first 90 days, because you've done a good job of letting them know how things are done here, the new ideas are becoming less and less and less because, well, now they've learned how we do things here.
Yeah. Fall in line with the system. Right. Yeah. That makes sense. So I like that concept, Kyle, because I think there's so many different ways that could go, especially like in construction where we're working like day to day. It changes. It's always changing. But we've done, in our 13 months that we've been in business really, we've really refined our processes, like set up SOPs, like, tried to establish different, like, these are the things, these are the scripts you should use and stuff like that. What have you seen out there with some of these younger people in the marketplace? Like what drivers are they bringing to the table? So when you're talking about having a seat at the table, what are things that they're pushing for, or does that make sense? Like what do they want, I guess is what I'm.
Yeah, I think off the top of the head, a younger person in a company with older leaders, you need to let them create, sustain, and scale your online presence.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because they can make a construction company look dope because they see that. They know how to look for trends. They know how to, because we're a millennial, we grew up with the popular, like iPhones and smartphones becoming popular. Like Gen Z, this alpha, it's just part of their being. Yeah. It's an extension of their body. Right. And much to an older generation, they're on their phone all the time. Yeah. We were on our Game Boys all the time. Right. It's like we had our things too. Right. And so, but then from a tactical, like giving them a place to say, what doesn't make sense here? How would you do things differently? And it's not that you have to implement everything that they're saying, but they need to feel like, okay, I'm actually making a difference here. Yeah. Because if it's just a job, they'll go Uber, DoorDash, or go viral on TikTok and make more money than they'll make any of your listeners paying them. Right.
Yeah. So I think one area that I fail at, like understanding social media, but then actually like implementing and doing, it seems like especially the younger generation come in, they are like so adapt to it. Like they're just like thrive in that, So what have you seen some of your clients doing with leveraging that power of technology and social media?
Letting younger people be the spokespeople for their company.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because older generation people, they don't want to be on it anyway, but they feel like I'm the owner. I need to be the face. Right. No, you just need your products, services, your offerings being talked about.
Right. Yes.
Create TOMA, top of mind awareness. And so if you have somebody, but even a big thing is if you have some type of give back in your company. Okay. That attracts this younger generation because of all the social justice, or they're focused on how can we help other people. Mm-hmm. And so if you say, hey, at Radius, we give 5% of all proceeds to fill in the blank thing. Yeah. That's attractive. Yeah. To a younger generation.
Very cool.
Hey, we give, we do a benefit every November and 50% of proceeds go to, Feed America, and we're going to give Thanksgiving dinners to blah, blah, blah. That's attractive. Okay. Because that makes them feel like they're actually being a part of people being helped. That's the big thing. Yeah. Because that's what they've been bombarded with.
Yeah. And I know even millennials have been that way. When you look at so many people want to be part of something bigger
than themselves.
Right. Right. So we're actively recruiting and hiring right now. And one thing that my friend Matt Warner over at My Salesman talks about, I know you've talked to Matt in the past and stuff.
Absolutely.
So, he talks about, he never wants his employees to be coin operated, right? So it's all about the dollar and pushing that. And I struggle with that sometimes because I like to have the idea that someone's getting rewarded for the effort and energy that they're putting in. Like that they feel that ownership, whether they actually have the ownership or not, but just understanding that they have autonomy, and once they get to a certain point that they're able, like, we're trying to empower them to make a decision, even if it's the wrong decision, just to make some decision and actually take some action, right? And it's very hard. It seems very hard in the workplace today to even get people to do that. So how do you help push clients to cultivate that environment for, that action to be had and taken?
9 words.
Okay.
If every person listening to this would implement this with their team, be a game changer in all companies. You bring somebody on, or your existing employees.
Okay.
Have a team meeting and say, hey, I want you to know these 7 words, and my response to one question will be 2 words. So the 7 words are this.
Okay.
I trust you. I believe in you. When you ask me a question, the 2 words are you decide. I trust you. I believe in you. You decide.
Okay.
I trust you. I believe in you. You decide. Anytime largest team I led was 500 volunteers when I was in ministry.
Right.
And that was my mantra. That was the drum that I banged, because there's no way I can manage that many people by myself.
True. Yeah.
There's no way that the operation that I was running could be done if I was the stopgate to every decision. And so I would tell a new teammate from day one, trust is given, mistrust is earned. If I brought you on the team, you ain't got to earn my trust.
Right.
Trust
you already
is given.
earned it. Right. You're part of the team.
One of my clients, they kind of pushed back on that. And I said, well, it's not on the employee you hired. It's on you as the hiring process. If you can't trust your people from day one, don't hire them.
100% agree.
If you feel like, they earned their way, because I earned my way. It's a new day and age. And so those 7 words, I trust you, I believe in you. I trust you, I believe in you. That will be a game changer. And you actually have to live it out.
Right.
Because the founder's curse, the CEO's curse is, I could do it faster myself.
Sure.
Probably do it better than myself.
Right.
One of the leaders we both know well, and I worked at Life Church for a while, Craig would say, if someone could do it 60% as good as you with upward momentum, that was the caveat.
Right.
If they were just doing 60%, don't give it to them.
Right.
But if they showed the ability, the coachability, the teachability of upward momentum, let them have it. And that is stressful as hell.
Right.
Seeing something that you believe is going to crash and burn, but it's not going to burn the whole ship down.
Right.
So you let it happen and coach on the back end, as long as it's not going to be detrimental. So if it was going to cost us a lot of money, a lot of the listeners, if it's going to cost a deal, step in.
Right.
If it's, man, I wouldn't have done it like that, but it's not going to affect the quality of work. It's not going to affect our standard. The customer's still going to be happy. Okay, let it be done, and then coach on the back end. And so each business owner listening to this will know what that standard is.
Yeah.
And for skilled workers like listeners of this podcast, it may be 85%. I was working with people, we weren't doing, so you'll set the standard. The listener will know, okay, this is what I feel comfortable doing if they can do it 80% as good as me. And then when your team comes to you and go, hey, do you think we should use this or this? You decide. Well, I just want your input. You decide. I made a good hire. I trust you. I believe in you. I'm glad you're on the team. You decide. Be a game changer in so many organizations.
That's good. That's good. So do you think part of that, Kyle, is setting how do you set your boundaries, or how do you create the sandbox for them to play in?
Yeah, I think that's what you talked about in the beginning with the SOPs.
Yeah.
Jocko Willink says that discipline creates freedom.
That's good. Yeah.
And so you have your standard, and you don't throw them in without training.
Well, okay.
You know, so you say, hey, here's what we do. Here's how we do it. Within these bumpers, go haywire.
Yeah.
Try new things within these guardrails.
Right.
You know, if you're using one set material and they go to the store and buy a whole nother, no. That's outside the guardrails. But you think about it like when you're learning, you know, you take a little kid to bowling alley and you put the bumpers up.
Yep.
They can throw that dang ball. It bounces all the way down there, but it gets to the end goal. That's okay. And you as the leader have to be okay with that as well. And go, oh, I would not do it like that. Or what's likely to happen is you'll see somebody on your team doing something you know is going to blow up in their face. It's either going to cost them more work. They're going to have to go back and fix it. But a teachable moment is always better than a non-teachable moment. Because what happens if you come and go, no, wait, I'll do it. Just watch me do it. You just took an opportunity for them to grow away.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's hard, you know, especially when, you know, we're a small organization trying to grow and grow fast, you know, giving up that, you know, control.
Yeah.
You know, it's the best way to look at it. I know it's difficult for me because you know, there's so many times where I'm like, well, I want everybody in the office to do this, or I want the guys in the field to do that. But if I just did it myself, like I know the profitability and the fact of we can get it done, but you're right. Like that doesn't release me to do the things I really need to be doing. Right. I'm stuck in the minutia of day to day, or like we've had problems with personally where everyone's asking me like for the answer. And it's like, yeah, that don't work.
Right. Well, and I think one of the things, like even as you're on the leadership team of this event, people come and ask y'all questions and y'all don't give the answers.
Right.
And so, you know, it's the same mentality of going, no, you'll figure it out.
Right.
You're in the environment. You're doing the work. You'll figure it out. You take that into Radius, it could be a good little switch for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So what else do you see as far as, I know one of the things that you train a lot of your clients on is like the personality tests and traits and Enneagrams and all that stuff. So you're like the master at that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So tell the listeners, like, give us some nuggets about that stuff. Cause I am with you having done a lot of that. Like there's so much value there, but I think a lot of people, especially if you haven't been in an environment where that is commonplace, it seems like this enigma. Like, I don't understand it. I don't really get it. Like, talk about why there's such value there in all of that.
Yeah. All growth starts from self-awareness. Self-awareness of yourself, of your team, and your organization. So my advice is don't go Google right now personal development tests, because you're going to get overwhelmed.
Right.
So some great ones for the industry that I work with, commission-based, is like a Strength Finder.
Yep.
Or Myers-Briggs. Those are two standards. They've been around forever. They're widely respected across multiple industries as these are good. Baseline. So a Myers-Briggs, it will rate introvert, extrovert, intuitive, or sensing, thinking or feeling, how you see the world, and then perceiving or judging. And it doesn't mean judging like I'm judging you. It's just more ethereal or concrete, which even in a brief, like the 10 seconds, most people in y'all's industry, construction, and I can already say that most are probably, if you're a salesperson, you're probably going to be introverted. Most are going to be sensing, most all will be thinking, and most all will be J. So the only, I would say, introvert, extrovert could vary, but most will be like STJ, meaning what we see is what we adapt. That's how we take in information, view it through how we think, and then we perceive the world as concrete. It's black or white. Did we get the job done? And so once you know some baseline, most industries they group because that's what you're drawn to. It's how you're wired. StrengthsFinder is really good, especially for a hiring process, because you start to see they're in 4 quadrants. So it's like influencing people, building a team, relational. So you start to piece people together as your organization grows and say, man, we really don't have anybody with some relational strengths. Well, that probably going to be like a client manager or somebody that's following up with people or going by and making sure the job was done well and that the customer's happy and things like that. Whereas a salesperson, they're going to need to be competition or maximizer or learner, so there's things in StrengthsFinder has 34 strengths.
Yep.
If you just take the test, it gives you the top 5. That's plenty to get started. I think I'd taken the test 4 or 5 times before I bought the whole thing because I was just curious what my last one is.
Yeah.
I have no empathy. That's what I learned.
Me either.
And so I think those would be 2. And what it does is it just gives you a language.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a manager, directors, founder, CEO, you could be frustrated by your team and not have the language to help them. So you're like, I just don't like the way they do X, Y, and Z. Well, if you don't have a language, a common language within your organization, then everything could be seen as an attack on that person.
Right.
Because feedback without application of growth or a strong relationship is a threat all the time. And so if you say, hey, this is what it is. And could you think that because these are your strengths, you probably may be good to do it this way? And it helps you as the leader know how to lead and guide your team where they're at now and where you're taking them.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. It's funny that you said when you were talking about the Myers-Briggs and specifically thinking about for construction and so I'm an ENTP. So surprise, surprise, I'm like an outlier from the typical, right? But I'm also like when I've done StrengthsFinders 2.0, my primary one's futuristic. Like I'm futuristic, competitive, and a couple others. Doesn't matter. Futuristic and competitive drives everything I do. So I'm so high in those that like it dominates everything. I'm always thinking about what's the bigger picture, and then how are we like taking action to like push the ball down the field. I talk about that in the podcast all the time. So one thing I think I struggle with when talking to new people that we're trying to recruit to the team is just connecting on the level of like selling the vision well, but then finding the spot to fill. So how do they fit in, if that makes sense? So do you suggest to your clients to have them take through part of the interview process, like actually do a personality test? Or is that something once you kind of feel like you're at that level of like you're bringing them on board, is that the first thing you recommend the clients do with them when they're on the team? Or
yes.
Okay.
So I've seen it done both ways. I advise folks to do it as part of the hiring process, at least one of them.
Okay.
Because again, if you've created you have a job description, but do you also have like a characteristic list of this is who I need in this role? Well, anybody you can dress up a pig in an interview.
Right. Right.
And you get them on the team, you're like, holy crap, this is nothing like they talked about.
Right.
And the tests it's a self-test. So they could tell you all the things that they think you want to know, but then you can identify that. And it gives you, again, ammunition in an interview to go, so in this test that we use, it says futuristic is, one of your top strengths. Could you tell me about a time that you led something and created a plan for the, 12-month vision?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they stumble through that, futuristic is not their strength.
Yeah.
And so it gives you some ammunition in an interview process to kind of test and see if the answers are legit or not. Also, if you have existing team members, say, hey, this is what we're going to go through, and commit to it.
Yeah.
And say, hey, we're going to bring everybody through it. I worked with a company that they had 14 employees, and for 4 months, that's what we did. We spent 2 months breaking down Myers-Briggs, 2 months breaking down StrengthsFinder, gave them a plan of implementation, and they've implemented it now with every hire that they've done. But we had to go back and kind of retrofit the existing employees to get the language so that when somebody comes in, they're not shell-shocked by these new people know it, but the old people don't. We had to get everybody on the same page. And now they do it as part of their hiring process.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's super cool. What do you see being around so many businesses and business owners? What do you see as a holdback for us as business owners in that growth stage? Because there's like so many obstacles, right? I mean, this is like this ethereal idea of like, oh, I've got these challenges and I need, and that's one of the things I run into now is, as we look at all the different options, and I talk to like Donnie and Ashley and Brenda, and even talk to the crews about, hey, we're thinking about doing this, or we're thinking about bringing someone on to, do sales, or we're thinking about having someone else in the office to answer the phones. And, what have you, what's your recommendation on that end? Like, what have you seen in that growth pattern?
Yeah, a great book I'd recommend is called Buy Back Your Time. Dan Martell.
Yes, dude, I just downloaded that on my Audible. Did you tell me about it or?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, no, I think someone else just said something about that on another podcast, but maybe you did too. Regardless, I have been at least recommended twice for that book.
So what I love, and this would give a very easy tactical thing people can do.
Okay.
Is in the beginning of the book, he talks about buyback rate. So the buyback rate is take what you yourself made last year, divide it by 2,000, assuming that you worked 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year.
Sure.
Which we all know as business owners, it's much higher than that. But just for the sake of the equation, divided by 2,000.
Okay.
That gives you your hourly rate.
Okay.
So you take your hourly rate and then multiply it by 25%. Gives you your buyback rate.
Okay.
That is the amount of money as it stands right now with no growth that you could collectively afford to pay somebody to buy back your time. And it also talks about a hiring ladder. So for someone, they're just starting out, they maybe have a small team, they're the CEO, they're the founder. The first person they need is an administrative assistant. Then they need the sales, then they need the marketing, so it goes through this ladder. And the first couple chapters breaks down all of that. And so there's a mastermind I'm a part of that Dan's coming and doing a teaching with us about it. And so it's going to be really cool. But so we're going through that book right now.
That's cool.
And it's a game changer because we think I just can't afford to bring somebody on. Well, you can, but again, where it leverage your strength really well, futuristic, going, this is what I can pay somebody. I don't have to pay one person all of this. I could split it up.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is what I can spend on it, and it will help me do the things that I can do.
Yeah, that's really good. What one of the things that you've been working on over even the last year is the markets have changed. Like we're seeing this, and we've had discussions at the boot camp that we're both at right now. The perception of the marketplace, right, and how that does weigh on different markets, but especially in construction, like our businesses. Even if you're doing residential and commercial, like there's so many different things that are predicated on just how people feel, because a lot of the projects that we do are like extra,
Totally.
but there's a lot of projects. It's probably a 50-50 split where there is a legitimate need. Like they don't have a choice. The wind blew down their fence. We have to do it. They have a gate that has an operator. They have a secured facility. It can't not work, right? So that's easy stuff. But like, it's like the extra is, I don't have a problem with it personally, but I'm struggling with trying to like get that wrapped around with the team aspect, right? Like that's where I think it's hard for me right now to talk about, I want everyone to be on page with, X, Y, and Z. And this is, I think this is a growth area that we could really improve in, but like setting that vision for that is easy, but the implementation seems to be challenging, especially with the new people. So what would you recommend for someone like me in my scenario where we want to grow certain verticals that we're working in every day? And then how do I put, like, is that where you're talking about like giving the ownership to the new person or?
So I think with growth and, it's like, oh, the sky is falling right. And there's some things that are true. Do things cost more right now? Yes. Yeah. Will they go back to what they were 2 years ago? Not likely.
No.
Because we've all accepted that things just cost more now.
Right.
So
true.
Prices may drop a bit, but they're just going to be what they are. But listeners, did you spend money last month? Yes.
Yeah.
Are you going to spend money this month? Yes. So my advice to you would be create so much attention on yourself so that when people need fence, gate, security, their first thought is radius.
Yeah.
And make it to where it's just, yes, in the immediate, I want you to think about us, but I also want that keep that top of mind awareness about what you're doing now with YouTube, what you're doing with TikTok, what you're doing. You're keeping your brand, your thing in front of people. You're giving tips. You're giving, hey, here's how you can protect your fence. Here's how you could, troubleshoot a blah, blah, blah. In the days of old, it was, I have the knowledge and you pay me for that knowledge.
Right.
That is no longer the day and age we live in. Nothing is secret anymore. Right. Nobody got a secret sauce. So the businesses and the leaders that are really separating themselves are going, I'm gonna tell you, I'll tell you how to build a fence.
Right.
I'll tell you what we do. I'll tell you how we do everything. But here's what you're not going to get. You're not going to get our care. You're not going to get our experience by working with us. And so it's going, okay, how much noise can we make about ourselves to where people can't ignore us?
Yeah.
I've done some training with a guy out of Miami and he said, if you don't create massive amounts of attention, this will be the hardest year of your life. For that very reason, because people are afraid.
And he's talking 2023.
2023.
Right. Yeah.
Because people, I'm in a similar boat, as it created a pivot in my own business because I was in one lane, I was running that lane, and it stopped working abruptly because I was working with individuals, paying out of individual personal bank accounts. And then I shifted, said, I'm going to work with businesses. Because guess what? Most businesses have a training and development budget. And when they review that budget every year, if they don't spend it, they lose it.
Right.
I'll meet that need.
Yeah.
You got to spend it. Why not spend it with me? And so creating, innovation comes out of constraints, something we've heard for years.
Yep.
And so in this time right now of going, oh my God, the market this, the market that, the market this, the market that, recession here, inflation, blah, 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 blah. One, cut that crap out. Do what you could do. Create as much attention on yourself, your product, your service, your brand, and let the chips fall where they may.
Sure.
And be okay with knowing that, like, it's experience trumps everything right now. How can you make yourself stand out in every step of a process with your company?
Yeah.
So when they submit a request, how do you make that different than everybody else? When you go see them, what's different about that? I have a buddy he's a home inspector, and he has a very unique way that he delivers a gift to every home that he does an inspection to. Because his last name is Parker, it's Parker Inspections. So his logo is PI. So that dude brings a pie to every inspection he does. It costs him $8 to go get a pie, local bakery. But that, oh my God, he brought a pie. That thing on social media blew up. That man went viral every post he made. Why? Because it was something different every other home inspector. So, there's countless fence companies. There's countless fill-in-the-blank companies.
Yep.
What makes you different? Not from an execution, but from an experience standpoint.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I was even seeing somebody on one of the local boards, even this past week, said that they had called 15 different companies in town and couldn't even get a quote, couldn't even get people to come out and call them back. And I get it. We're all busy and stuff, and I see us sometimes struggle with some of those things because of our size, because we just don't have the staff or whatever. So we've been leveraging a lot of different other resources like our My Salesmen and stuff like that. And one big change I made when we went from February, like really having a bad month, to March having our best month in March of 2023, was I started doing immediate estimates on the spot. Like before I left the house, like I set up my ARC site. I have all these tools, right? So Kyle's kind of looking at me like, what are you talking about? But like they're basically tools that we're using in our industry that allow us to like finalize and dial in our numbers, our expectations, the information for the project, so we can immediately hand the client an estimate, whether I physically am giving them that back on the spot or I'm shaking their hand going, I'm emailing you in 3 minutes, and then getting them in the process. But even while we've been here at the boot camp, I mean, I want to say we closed like 9 or 10 jobs in the last 3 days. And all of them are literal ones right before I left town. I was slamming them out and then they just fell in the process flow. And it just, you know what I'm saying? Like the
Absolutely.
Systems in place to make it happen and work. We just have to work the system.
Yep. Yeah. You'll never rise to the occasion of the growth you desire. You'll fall to the level of your systems.
That's good. Say that again.
You'll never rise to the occasion of the growth you desire. You'll fall to the level of your systems.
I 100% agree with that for sure. So, with that being said, what other things you got? You got any other thoughts for anybody out there? I mean, you're in the coaching space. You obviously are so well read and you have done leadership. I want to share with everyone something too. And this is my experience from being a leader at church where you worked, but being a volunteer leader, right? For so many years is we would always talk about like how we set expectations up within our teams. And if anybody listening to this has never led volunteers, that's the hardest thing in the world to do because you got to think there's no like monetary benefit. So you have to have this vision and then you have to have the execution. And then, you have to teach people to be fun and flexible along the way, right? Like they have to know, like you're talking about, like, especially for younger people where they want to have that buy-in and stuff. Like there's a purpose to what we're doing. But when I say all that, like, what do you think is the big outliers in all of that?
And how to lead people?
In how to lead people, but how to like push forward in the organization as far as, because we're obviously not volunteers, right?
Sure.
We're for profit, right? So So it's different, but it just feels like sometimes like I could help a volunteer move easier than I could move someone within the business because it's a different space, right?
Yeah. So I think that one of the things that motivated volunteers more than anything is stories.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you build. I don't care what you're not building a fence. You're protecting memories.
Yes. Yep.
You're not putting on a roof. You're covering memories. So like people in the construction space, I'm like, share the stories, not of the thing you put up or fixed, but rather what is it producing because of your company coming in and quote unquote saving the day.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about, man, wind blows over a fence. What can't happen now? I can't go outside with my kids. I can't let my dog out. I can't protect myself from people coming into my yard. That's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And so I think getting people to understand that, I mean, for me, when I was leading a big volunteer team, you're not just holding a door. You're not just showing a person to a seat. You're not just doing anything. And so it's how do you connect the head of what you do physically to the heart of what it protects?
Mm.
And so that's the thing is, so it's going, man, what does having this fill in the blank, whatever your thing is, what does that do for your family? Asking that question. And I loved when we got to work with fill in the blank person because now we can have birthday parties in the backyard in a space that we love. I really love the fact that we now have a roof that's going to last our home the next 20 years. Doesn't matter outside of, you know, unforeseen God thing. Our roof is protected. I love that we, you know, siding, painting, whatever, like tie it back to the heart. And when you're in front of your team and you're in front of the people, like, hey, this is what we do. We protect your memories. We allow you to have great ones. And through working with us, we're going to make sure that this is a great experience for you.
Yeah.
And this is how we do it.
That's
and
good.
You go into, you know, technical side of what you do.
Yeah. So kind of wrapping things up, one thing I think is paramount for success of any business is the environment, like the culture. That's the buzzword of the past decade, right?
Right.
But I mean, it's really an environment thing, you know, and it's very similar to what we've done with our boot camps here, right? That you've joined me for this weekend is, you know, we talk about that as a leadership team for this organization. Is my job as a facilitator is I'm the environment creator, right? So in the business space, sometimes it can be very challenging, especially when things are stressful, or like an organization like Radius where we're small, to really create that environment. Like it really, you know what I'm saying? Like it really is, it's not impossible, but it's a challenge. So what would you say to up and coming companies or established companies that are listening to this that are much larger, where they know they're in that spot where they've got to improve the environment or create it because it was never done before? What's your recommendation on that? Or what are things?
I think one, take an assessment of what your people need, because I like to pull back the curtain on myself. There was an industry that I thought, man, this is going to be a great thing for me to work into. And my high energy, excited self was not a fit. These cats looked at me like, who is this bouncy little guy? Like, no. And it didn't work. So it taught me my style works in a few industries. That one wasn't.
Sure.
And so, you know, because what I found, like with folks that do manual labor, service based out in the field, you're not going to get them to come in and be like, hey, we're going to do this 30-minute motivational. That ain't going to work. You may have to do that once a quarter, and you're going to have to feed them. And you're like, it's good. But make sure you whatever you decide you want, make sure you as the leader are leading the way. If you want an environment that is high energy, you got to be on. You want an environment that is transparent, you got to be appropriately vulnerable. If you have never set a culture, whiteboard that thing out and say, this is what we want to be known for. If you want to improve your customer ratings on a job, cool. Here's what we want our customers to say. And bring it full circle. Bring in people bring in your normal people to sit at the table, but then bring in other people and go, how's this sound? If we did this, what would you think? Back in 2000s, I used to love the show Undercover Boss.
Yeah, great show.
Because the people at the top would go to the people doing the work and go, holy crap, I had no idea this was happening.
Yep.
And they would have these massive organizational shifts because they got eyes on what was actually happening. And that's the biggest tension is the people at the top don't know what we go through. Sit up there in their ivory tower, drive around their trucks and just make sure we're still working. Get in there with your people. But first you have to establish what you want. And then you're the gatekeeper. You see something outside of that, call it out. Hey, I know this is just a month in, but we don't do this anymore. I know we did it last month. We don't do it this month. And you, even at, small, you're nimble. You could shift. I mean, I'm working with one of my teams now. I was like, hey, we're going to try something for 2 weeks. If it sucks, y'all tell me. Cool. Because it's a small group.
Yeah.
If I couldn't do that with a team of 100, organization of 150. It's going to take, you got committees and you got people that got to sign off on things and blah, 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 whatever. And so establish what you want, be the enforcer, make sure that your expectations match the people, and then wash, rinse, and repeat and evaluate often. People like to go, oh, let's review the year. No, you need to review the quarter. You need to think as you're building culture, you're in a 12-week year, not a 12-month year.
That's good. That's good. How do you recommend people when you're talking about that evaluation? Like, what is that? Like, what's a good rule of thumb to look at that? Like, is there a certain process flow we need to do as business owners, or do we just call Unleash the Champ and then you just coach us?
We can definitely do that. Unleashthechamp.com. Fill out a form. I'll be in touch with you.
Right.
But if you have a standard of what you want.
Okay.
And you reference the 360, John Maxwell.
Yep.
Create a 360 survey. Ask your people.
Yeah.
We like to think that it's so complicated. Ask your people what they think.
Good. Yeah.
And you fill it out and don't put no names on it. And then as the people going through the surveys, don't try to figure out who said what. I repeat.
I can figure it out right now.
Yeah. And so that's the challenge is like, I know you said this, but ask your people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if asking questions like, if you would have done this, would you have made this decision? But again, what predicates that is a culture of collaboration, a culture of asking the questions. And not in a, well, what would you have done? Or why did you do this? It's, hey, if you would have, how would you have ran this flow? What process doesn't make sense? What is making your job harder?
Mm-hmm.
What do I think is great that's not? And again, it opens you up for conversation if you've created the camaraderie and the collaboration where they feel safe to do that. Because if you have a culture where they're just coming to work, going home, they don't want to hear from you until the next time they come to work, you're not feedback.
Yeah. That's not much of a culture.
That's not much of a culture. Oh, it is a culture. It's just,
yeah, that's true.
It's just not one that's probably going to predicate growth.
Right. Right. Not the culture that we want anyone listening to this, that's not the culture.
Exactly.
I can tell you for sure. So wrap this thing up, put a bow on it. Like I say every time, what great thing from Unleash the Champ would you want to leave with all the professionals that listen to our show and consume this content? Because we hit a lot of things, but I know you're always like proactively thinking of things, and you get a unique opportunity because of the different markets that you're working in, right? So what's out there right now, knowing what we talked about, that you want to leave with everybody listening to this today?
I feel like through our conversation, it's evaluate or set your culture. Evaluate or set your culture. Get yourself on a whiteboard and go, what are we known for? What do we want to be known for? See where the gaps are. That could be something that you could do this week.
Yeah.
Spend an hour, bring in lunch, bring in some of your customers. Reach out to some customers of various jobs. Hey, can I buy you lunch and ask you some questions? I don't know. Who's doing that?
Right. Yeah, that's good.
And so you got your team, you got some customers of various size jobs, and you just say, hey, how would you favorably recommend us? What are we known for in your eyes? Here's what we want to be known for. Would you use those language? What language would you use? And just create a think tank. I wouldn't put more than 8 to 10 people. So if you have a large company, everybody ain't invited to this cookout. But get a small sample size, get something that you can work with, and see where the gaps are.
That's awesome. I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me. It is late at night. We're out here in the middle of Texas, north of Houston, getting better, being better dads, being better husbands, and growing that way. But it's always funny how so much of it relates back to what we do for work. Because 100%. Our jobs our jobs and our work are not us, but they are, right? You know, it's a reflection of us, whether you want to admit that or not, right? So, man, I just appreciate you sitting down with me, spending time. I hope everybody listening to this goes to unleashthechamp.com, checks out Kyle, checks out his podcast. Where can they find your podcast? What's the name and all that?
Everywhere that podcasts are listened to, on YouTube as well. Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast.
Perfect. Yep. And you've been doing it for a year and a half?
So March 29th of this year was 2 years.
2 years.
112 episodes in at the time of this recording.
Awesome, man. So exciting. We're slowly building that way. Rob's like, take your time. He doesn't want to have too much on his plate.
Right.
This one's easier since it's audio only. So he's already been telling me, he was texting me saying, oh, I got a way if you just get the audio. And I said, oh, wait, we got some stuff. We can come up with something. So no, I'm excited. I think the rest of 2023, there is going to be challenges in the marketplace. But I know with where we're at and where we're going and the team that we're growing and the people that we're looking to add, man, I'm excited. And I'm going to implement a lot of these things for sure, because you're only as good as your team.
That's right.
Every organization, no matter what you do, you're only as good as the people that work with you.
That's right.
Day to day. So, man, I appreciate you, buddy. That's it for today, guys. Appreciate everybody's time. Check out all the show notes. We'll have some different links and everything back on there for the books that we talked about. Of course, all of our great partners that we work with day in and day out. And we will see you guys on next week's episode. Peace.
You've been listening to the Protecting Your Radius podcast from the LuxCore Studios in Bixby, Oklahoma. Thanks for sticking around, and connect with us and all of our partners at www.protectingyourradius.com. We want to thank our premier partners. LuxCore, the newest line of premium quality composite infill to slide into your fence track fence system. Frame your style today. Also, Stain Track, the world's first patented standalone stain machine. Utilizing flood coat technology, StainTrack covers boards, pickets, posts, and any type of dimensional wood you can think of. And what better way to use your StainTrack machine than to use the easy application Wood Defender family of stains. Wood Defender goes on easy and covers in one coat with no back brushing. And of course, the true power of our show is you, the listener. Please rate and review our show on whatever platform you consume this content. Your 5-star likes and reviews help other contractors get the message that we all want to be better and do better. And in the construction world, we can never forget that before you can be great, you've got to be good. Before you can be good, you've got to be bad. But before you can even be bad, you've got to try.